The rain hammered the windshield like it had a personal grudge, turning the Seattle streets into a blurry watercolor of neon signs and taillights. I slammed the car door behind me, my sneakers splashing into puddles that swallowed my ankles whole, heart pounding harder than the thunder rolling in from Puget Sound. Lily's house loomed ahead, that cozy craftsman with the wraparound porch where we'd spent half our childhoods plotting world domination over stolen sips of her dad's whiskey. Except tonight, the porch light was on, and through the sheets of rain, I saw him standing there, Joshua, silhouetted like a ghost from a noir film, waiting for me with a look that said he knew everything I was about to confess. I froze on the cracked concrete path, water dripping from my hoodie like accusations, because Lily wasn't the one I needed to talk to anymore. Not about this. "Ryan," he said, his voice cutting through the storm like gravel wrapped in velvet. Low and steady, the kind that made your knees buckle without warning. "She's not here. But I am. Come inside before you drown, kid." Joshua's kitchen smelled like fresh ground coffee and the faint, forbidden tang of his aftershave, the one that always lingered on Lily's sweaters after their family hugs. He handed me a towel without a word, his calloused fingers brushing mine just long enough to send a jolt up my arm. And I hated how my body betrayed me, how it had been doing that for months now. Ever since that stupid backyard barbecue where I'd caught him shirtless by the grill, sweat tracing the lines of his chest like an invitation I pretended not to see. "Lily's at her mom's for the weekend," he explained, leaning against the counter with that easy posture, arms crossed over a faded Pearl Jam tee that hugged his frame like it remembered better days. "Early flight. Said something about you needing to crash here if the storm got bad. Figured you'd show." I mumbled a thanks, scrubbing at my hair, avoiding his eyes, those deep hazel ones that crinkled at the corners when he laughed, the ones that made me feel seen in a way that scared the hell out of me. Lily and I had been inseparable since freshman year at UW, bonded over bad poetry slams and worse breakups. But lately, every conversation circled back to her dad. "He's just solid. You know," I told her once, drunk on cheap rose, and she'd laughed, calling him Old Man Rivers like he was some ancient relic. But he wasn't. At 45, Joshua was a force, widower since Lily's mom died of cancer a decade ago, raising his daughter solo while flipping houses around Queen and Hill, his hands scarred from hammers and heartaches I could only guess at. We ended up on the living room couch, the one with the sagging cushions and throw pillows that still smelled faintly of her mom's lavender detergent. Thunder rattled the windows, and he poured us both scotch, neat, no ice, his ritual for storms. "Talk to me, Ryan," he said, settling too close, his knee brushing mine. "You've got that look, like you're carrying the weight of the world on those skinny shoulders." I took a swig, the burn steadying me, and the words tumbled out before I could stop them. "It's stupid. This guy at the coffee shop, barista with tattoos and a smile that could melt steel. But it's not just him. Everything. Feeling like I'm always one wrong glance from blowing up my life. Gay in Seattle was supposed to be easy, progressive paradise, rainbow flags on every corner. But try telling that to the knot in my gut every time I scrolled Grindr at 2 a.m., deleting profiles before dawn like evidence of a crime. Joshua nodded, slow and thoughtful, swirling his glass. "Life's full of those glances, kid. Ones that change everything." His voice dropped, and for a second, the room felt smaller, the air thicker. He set his drink down, turned to face me fully, and there it was, that spark, the one I'd buried under layers of denial. Lily's told me about you. The poems you write, the way you see the world like it's poetry waiting to happen. Said you're the bravest guy she knows. Brave. The word hung there, mocking me. I laughed it off, but my throat tightened. Brave? I'm a mess. Hiding from my own reflection half the time. He reached out then, his hand on my knee, not tentative, but firm, like he was anchoring me. Hiding's what we do best. Me, I spent years pretending after Ellen died. Dates with women who were nice enough, but it was all smoke. Then Lily grew up, and well, let's just say the Pacific Northwest has a way of washing away the bullshit. His eyes held mine, unflinching, and in that gaze, I saw it. The secret he'd guarded like a vault, the reason he never dated seriously, the late nights I'd glimpsed him on the porch with a book of Auden, cigarette glowing like a confession. My breath caught. Joshua. The front door banged open downstairs, but it was just the wind, rattling the frame. No. Wait, footsteps. Lily, but she was gone. Joshua pulled back, clearing his throat, but the damage was done. The air crackled with what-ifs, and as he stood to check the door, I realized nothing about this night was going as planned. Not the talk with Lily, not the safe harbor I'd sought. Instead, I'd stumbled into a storm far wilder than the one outside. We spent the next hour pretending, him fiddling with the ancient radiator that clanked like a dying beast, me scrolling my phone for distractions, texts from my roommate about the Mariners game, a missed call from my mom back in Spokane asking if I'd eaten. But every time our eyes met, it was like static, pulling me in. Joshua finally cracked a smile, dimples flashing in that boyish way that made him look 30 again. Remember that summer you and Lily tried to build that treehouse? Damn near broke your arm falling off the ladder. I grinned despite myself. Yeah, and you carried me down like some action hero. Bandaged me up with duct tape and dad jokes. Still got the scar? He leaned in, casual as hell, his fingers tracing my forearm where the faint white line snaked under my sleeve. His touch lingered, warm and rough, and I swear the room tilted. Seattle rain pattered against the panes like applause, urging us on. It's nothing, I whispered, but my voice cracked. His hand didn't move, thumb brushing the edge of the mark, and suddenly we were inches apart again, breaths mingling. Joshua, what are we? Shoo. He closed the gap, lips brushing mine tentative at first, then hungry, like a man starved. Scotch and salt and something deeper, forbidden, flooding my senses. My hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, the world narrowing to the heat of his body, the scrape of stubble against my jaw. It was messy, desperate, kisses tasting of regret and revelation, and when we broke apart, gasping, his forehead pressed to mine. This is crazy. You're Lily's best friend. I'm twice your age, Ryan. Doesn't feel crazy, I said, heart slamming like bass at a grunge concert. Feels like coming home. He pulled me into his lap then, hands roaming with a gentleness that belied the fire in his eyes, and we lost ourselves there on that worn couch. Clothes shed in a frenzy, my hoodie tossed to the floor, his tee peeled off to reveal the map of his life in faded tattoos and surgical scars from Ellen's last days. His body was solid, lived in, every inch a story I wanted to read with my tongue, my fingers. He whispered my name like a prayer, guiding me with touches that spoke volumes. Here, slower. There, yes. It was my first time with someone who knew what he was doing, who saw me not as a fumbling kid but as a man worth unraveling for. Afterward, tangled in a throw blanket that smelled of popcorn and old movies, we lay there listening to the storm ease into a drizzle. His arm draped over my waist, heavy and real. "I've thought about this," he admitted, voice rough. "Since that barbecue. You in the hammock, reading that beat poet shit, looking at me like I was the one worth quoting." I turned to face him, tracing the silver at his temples. "Lily can never know." His jaw tightened. "She will. Eventually. But tonight, it's ours." Dawn crept in gray and forgiving, painting the room in soft watercolors. Joshua made coffee, black for him, loaded with cream for me, and we ate toast at the kitchen island, knees bumping under the wood like shy teenagers. Felt domestic, dangerously so, and I caught myself imagining mornings like this forever. Him in boxers flipping eggs, me sketching lyrics on napkins while Lily rolled her eyes from across the table, oblivious. But Lily texted at 8 a.m., flight delayed. Home by noon. "Missed you last night, Bill." My stomach dropped. Joshua saw the color drain from my face. "Go," he said simply, kissing my temple. "We'll figure it out." I drove home through mist-shrouded streets, evergreen needles dripping like afterthoughts, replaying every moment, the taste of him, the way he'd gasped my name. Ryan Hale, 22 and utterly wrecked, in the best possible way. The weekend blurred into a haze of stolen texts, thinking about your laugh in the rain. From him. Can't stop smiling like an idiot. From me. Lily crashed at my apartment Sunday night, oblivious, chattering about her mom's new boyfriend, total tool, but hot, while I nodded, guilt gnawing like termites. "You okay? You seem glowy." "Just the weather," I lied, flashing a peace sign. Inside, I was a live wire, buzzing with secrets. Monday brought reality crashing back. Classes at UW, barista shifts where that tattooed crush shot me lingering looks I now ignored. Joshua texted sparingly, busy flip in Ballard. Dinner Wednesday? And I agonized over replies, deleting heart emojis like contraband. By Wednesday, I was at his door again, this time under the guise of helping with Lily's birthday gift. A lame excuse that crumbled the second he yanked me inside, mouth claiming mine against the wall. That became our rhythm. Stolen hours in his truck parked by Discovery Park. Hikes up to the lighthouse where we'd fuck against mossy trees, whispering futures we had no right to. He told me everything. How he'd buried his queerness after Ellen, dated men in secret during his construction gigs in Alaska, came back to Seattle a ghost until Lily's high school graduation, when a one-night stand with a coworker nearly outed him. I chose her, he said one night, post-orgasm haze, fingers combing my hair. But God, Ryan, you make me want to choose me too. I fell hard, stupidly, irrevocably. Wrote poems about his hands, the way they spanned my ribs like they were built for me. Introduced him as Joshua in my journal entries, like that made it less real. 2 weeks in, the crack appeared. Lily invited me to family game night, Monopoly, her tradition, and I walked into a minefield. Joshua and I, across the board, feet tangled under the table, his toes tracing my calf while she crowed about boardwalk. Dad, you're terrible at this, Ryan. Back me up. I laughed too loud. Knocked over my wine glass. Red spilling like blood across the fake money. Joshua's eyes met mine. Panic, then steel, and he cleaned it up without a word. But Lily's brow furrowed. You two are weird tonight. The fallout started subtle, like fog rolling off the sound. Lily texted me the next morning. Hey, noticed Dad staring at you a lot last night. Creepy? Or am I paranoid? My thumbs froze over the screen, coffee turning bitter in my mug. Nah, he's just proud I crushed him at Monopoly LOL. I shot back, hating the lie, the way it coiled in my gut like bad takeout. Joshua called later, voice low from the job site. She say anything? Just girl stuff. I paced my tiny Ballard apartment, posters of Nirvana and Ginsberg mocking me from the walls. We gotta be careful. I know. A pause. Hammer strikes echoing in the background. Miss you already. Poet boy. That poet boy undid me. Sent me sprawling on my futon with a groan. Hand slipping south as I replayed his gravelly timbre. We met that night at a dive bar in Fremont. The kind with sticky floors and craft IPAs named after serial killers. Tucked in a corner booth, his hand on my thigh under the table, we plotted like fugitives, code words for texts, lighthouse for meetups, alibis for Lily. Felt thrilling, illicit, like we were starring in our own indie flick. Score by the Shins. But thrill erodes under scrutiny. Lily started probing, casual at first, lunch at Pike Place, her tossing me a salmon jerky sample while eyeing me sideways. You've been MIA. Hooking up with that barista, I deflected with a story about a poetry slam flop, but her laugh didn't reach her eyes. Dad mentioned you helping with the house flip. Said you're handy. Weird flex. Handy. The word twisted. Loaded. Joshua had taught me to spackle drywall that weekend. His body pressed behind mine as he guided my hands, breath hot on my neck. Like this, he'd murmured, hips grinding subtle promise. We'd christened the half-painted bedroom after, paint flecks in my hair like confetti from a forbidden party. By mid-November, the leaves were skeletons crunching underfoot, and our affair was a wildfire consuming, unstoppable. He took me to his secret spot, an abandoned mill on the Duwamish, where we'd lie on a ratty blanket, stars punching through the skylight holes. Ran away here as a kid, he confessed one night, joint passing between us, smoke curling like ghosts. Mom was beating the booze, Dad long gone. Figured I'd build a life from scrap. I propped on an elbow, tracing the crow's feet that deepened when he smiled. You did. Lily's proof, his expression shadowed. She's my anchor. But you're the sail, Ryan. Pushing me toward something I forgot I wanted. He kissed me then, slow and deep, hands mapping me like blueprints for a forever house. We made love there, echoes of our gasps bouncing off rusted beams, and I came undone whispering his name, feeling for the first time like I belonged, not to Seattle's hipster haze, but to him. The betrayal hit like a Nor'wester. Lily cornered me after my shift, bursting into the coffee shop with cheeks flushed from the chill. We need to talk. Now. Her voice was steel-wrapped in hurt, and she dragged me to the alley behind, where dumpsters reeked of regret. I saw you. Last Tuesday, Dad's truck parked by the park. You climbed in like you owned it. Kissing him. My dad, Ryan, what the fuck? The world tilted. Rain starting again in fat. Accusing drops. Lily, it's not. Don't. Tears mixed with the downpour on her face. Mascara rivers. I trusted you. My best friend. And him? He's supposed to protect me, not steal my person. She shoved me, hard, backpack spilling journals onto the wet pavement. One fluttered open. My scribbles about Joshua's laugh, his scars, words like home and haven bleeding ink in the puddle. I sank to my knees, gathering pages, voice breaking. I love him. It happened fast, stupid, but real. I'm sorry, God. Lily, I'm so sorry. She loomed, fists clenched, rain plastering her hair like a drowned Ophelia. Sorry? You betrayed me. Both of you. Get out of my life. She stormed off, leaving me there, soaked and shattered, the city lights blurring into a smear of neon judgment. Joshua found out that night, showing up at my door with takeout tie and a face like thunder. She called me, screaming, said we're perverts, that I ruined everything. He paced my cramped living room, muscles taut under his flannel, the man who'd seemed unbreakable now fraying at the edges. I tried explaining, told her about me, the truth I've hidden since she was 10. But she hung up. Won't answer. I pulled him down beside me, arms wrapping tight. We'll fix it. Together. He buried his face in my neck, shoulders shaking, silent sobs that wrecked me more than any storm. I can't lose her, Ryan. She's all I have left of us. Ellen wanted her to have the world, not this mess. We held each other through the night, making slow, tender love that felt like atonement, kisses like apologies, touches like pleas. Dawn found us tangled, his head on my chest, heartbeat syncing with mine. I love you, he murmured, first time saying it aloud, and it anchored me amid the wreckage. But Lily's silence stretched, a chasm widening. Days turned to a week, her socials gone dark. Mutual friends tiptoeing around texts like, heard you and Lily had a fight? Joshua threw himself into work, coming home to an empty house that echoed with her absence. Her room untouched, posters of Paramore curling at the edges. I moved in quietly, cooking dinners he barely touched, reading him my poems by firelight, words weaving fragile bridges over the hurt. The high tide of conflict crashed mid-December, holiday lights twinkling like false promises on every rooftop. Lily emailed, not a call, not a text, an email, summoning us to the house for the talk. Joshua's hands trembled on the steering wheel as we drove, wipers slashing at flurries. If she wants you gone, no. I gripped his thigh. We're in this. End of story. She waited in the living room, cross-legged on the couch, mug of cocoa steaming like a peace offering she wasn't ready to give. The air was thick, evergreen scent from the tree mocking our fractured family. Sit, she said, voice flat, eyes red-rimmed. Joshua perched on the armchair, me beside her, deliberate, a buffer. I hate you both, she started. No preamble, words slicing like icicles. For lying. For making me feel like the idiot in my own life. Joshua opened his mouth, but she held up a hand. Dad, you first. All those years, Mom's death. You alone. I thought it was grief. But you were. What? Ashamed? Of who you are? He leaned forward, elbows on knees, voice raw. Terrified, Lil. Of hurting you. Of the world hurting you because of me. Seattle's open, but small towns, family barbecues, it's not always kind. I buried it for you. Her lip quivered. And Ryan? He's not some midlife crisis. He's my Ryan. The one who held my hand through braces and breakups. I reached for her, tentative. I never meant to take anything. It just happened. But I love him, Lily. And I love you. You're my family. She recoiled, but not fully, fingers twitching like they wanted to hold on. Love? That's what you call sneaking around? Betraying me? The room spun, accusations piling like snowdrifts. Joshua broke first, voice cracking. I failed you. As a dad. As a man. If you want me out, stop. Lily surged up, pacing, tears free-falling. I don't want you gone. I want truth. No more secrets. But Ryan, her gaze pinned me, fierce and wounded. How do I trust you again, after seeing you kiss him like that, like I didn't exist? I stood, closing the distance, rain from weeks ago echoing in my plea. You exist. Always. This doesn't erase us, it adds. Let me show you. What followed was chaos. Shouts dissolving into sobs. Cocoa spilled in a clumsy hug. Joshua pulling us both into his arms like we were kids again. Hours blurred, stories spilled. His hidden past with a college lover in the 90s. My fears of never measuring up. Lily listened, thawing inch by inch, until exhaustion claimed us, slumped on the floor amid wrapping paper shreds. Christmas Eve dawned brittle, the kind of cold that seeped into bones and lingered. Lily had thawed enough for a tentative truce, no grand forgiveness, just a shared pot of Joshua's famous clam chowder, steam rising like fragile flags of parley. We ate in silence at first, spoons clinking against bowls, the tree lights casting halos on our faces. This sucks, she muttered finally, pushing peas around her plate. All of it, Joshua chuckled, low and relieved. Understatement of the year, kiddo. I nudged her foot under the table. Blame me. I'm the one who showed up uninvited. Her eyes softened, just a flicker. Yeah, well, you're still a shitty poet. It was the closest to her old self. And we laughed. Shaky, real, the sound echoing off the high ceilings like permission to breathe. That night, after she crashed early, Joshua and I slipped out to the backyard, bundled in his old army jacket that swallowed me whole. Snow dusted the evergreens, turning the world silver and still, the city hum muted to a whisper. We stood by the fire pit, his arms around me from behind, chin on my shoulder. Think she'll stay? He murmured, breath warm against my ear. She's tough. Like her dad. I twisted to face him, gloved hands framing his jaw. Like us. Our kiss was slow, snowflakes melting on lashes, promise etched in frost. Back inside, we made love in his bed, her childhood home. Ghosts be damned, bodies moving with the quiet urgency of second chances. He traced my spine, whispering, "You're my North Star, Ryan. Don't ever forget." New Year's brought the real test. Lily's resolution, declared over hangover mimosas, to figure this shit out or die trying. She dragged us to therapy. Family sessions in a cozy office overlooking Lake Union, DR. Patel's voice a steady rudder through the storms. Betrayal isn't the end, she'd say, her bindi a calm anchor. It's the forge. Joshua opened up about his Alaska years, the roughnecks and one-night stands that left him hollow. I shared my poetry, verses about hiding in plain sight, the ache of unspoken wants. Lily listened, journal in lap, sketching doodles of us as superheroes, capes frayed but flying. Spring unfurled tentative, cherry blossoms painting Capitol Hill pink, and with it, our rhythm shifted. No more shadows, dates in the open, brunch at Le Panier, where Joshua's hand laced with mine over croissants. Lily rolling her eyes from across the table but smiling secret. Gross, but cute. She'd grill him on his playlists. Dad, more Fleetwood Mac, less Springsteen, and tease me about my barista crush. Upgrade achieved. Hail. But peace is a jealous lover, and conflict lurked in the margins. Joshua's ex from the shadows resurfaced, a burly contractor named Mark, broad-shouldered and bitter, who'd ghosted after Joshua came clean about Lily. He cornered Joshua at a job site in Georgetown, words slurring over beers. Heard you're playing house with some twink. What? Tired of real men? Joshua laughed it off. But the bruise bloomed later, purple on his ribs from a slip with a ladder. Lie, he told me, I's avoiding mine. Pushed, nights tangled in sheets slick with sweat. Tell me the truth. All of it, he sighed, tracing my collarbone. Mark's harmless. Old wounds. But his voice cracked, and I saw the fear, the specter of violence that gay men in America whispered about, even in blue states. I won't let him touch us. The high tide swelled in May, graduation season dusting the air with caps and gowns. Lily walked UW's stage, diploma in hand, us cheering from the bleachers, Joshua whooping like a fool, me snapping photos on my phone. The after-party at our apartment, the word still thrilling, was a blur of craft beers and indie folk, friends toasting her future in graphic design. But Mark crashed it, uninvited, bottle of Jack in fist, eyes bloodshot. Heard it's a big night. Thought I'd congratulate the family. The room chilled, Lily's hand tightening on my arm. Joshua stepped forward, calm as Lake Merwin on a still day. Not now, Mark. Go home. But Mark lunged, shoving Joshua against the fridge, glass shattering like brittle trust. You think you can parade this shit around? With her watching, his gaze raked me, venomous. Kid's gonna learn what happens when daddies play pretend. I surged, adrenaline spiking, but Lily beat me, grabbing a broom, jabbing his chest. Get out. You're not family, you're poison. Friends piled on, hauling him away, sirens wailing distant as campus security arrived. Joshua slumped against the wall, knuckles split, but unbroken. In the ER waiting room, fluorescent hum mocking our fragility, Lily curled into him, tears soaking his shirt. I thought. I was scared you'd leave again. Like Mom, he held her fierce. Never, Lil. Promise. My turn came later, stitching his hand under the harsh lights, his free fingers lacing mine. You okay? I whispered. Better than ever, his smile, crooked and true. Because of you too. Summer baked Seattle slow, heat waves shimmering off asphalt, and we rebuilt brick by brick. Joshua and I flipped his next house together, a Victorian in Wallingford, sanding floors until our backs screamed, painting walls in shades of stormy sea and whiskey gold. Lily designed the logo for his new business, Rivers Renovations, tagline building homes, mending hearts. Cheesy, she grinned, but ours. One August evening, as the sun dipped behind the Olympics, painting the sky bruise purple, we gathered on the new porch, wine for me, beer for him, soda for her. Fireflies danced lazy, and Lily raised her glass. To us. Messy, but mine, Joshua clinked, eyes on me soft. To family. The one we choose. I swallowed the lump, words spilling poetic. To the storms that bring us home. As dusk deepened, Lily wandered inside for seconds, leaving us alone. Joshua pulled me close, lips brushing my temple. Marry me? Not today, but someday. When it's right. My heart soared, yes, on my tongue. But the real climax waited in the quiet after. Love not as fireworks, but as the steady burn of hearth. Yet shadows lingered. Mark's arrest for assault hung over us like a pall. Court dates looming in September. Joshua testified steady, voice unwavering. He crossed a line. But so did I. Once, hiding who I am. The judge nodded, sentencing light but firm. And as we left the courthouse, rain starting again, Seattle's baptism, Lily linked arms with us both. We're unbreakable now. Fall whispered in with equinox winds, leaves carpeting paths in crimson confession. I published my first chapbook, Porch Lights and Puget Promises. Joshua's forward a simple line. To the boy who lit my way home. Lily illustrated the cover, her lines bold and healing. One night, under that same stormy sky from months ago, we stood in the backyard. Rain light now. Caress. Joshua dropped to one knee. Ring glinting simple silver band, engraved with waves. Ryan Hale. Be my forever. Tears mixed with droplets. Lily whooping from the porch. Yes, I breathed, pulling him up into a kiss that tasted of salt and salvation. The wedding was small. Backyard affair. Friends in flannel. Vows exchanged by the fire pit. Lily walked me down the aisle of strung lights, whispering, "Took you long enough. Weirdo." Joshua waited, eyes shining, and as we said, "I do," thunder rumbled distant. Approval, not omen. Life unfolded human. Flawed. Arguments over dishes. Lily's move to Portland for grad school leaving echoes. Joshua's bad knee flaring in winter. But we mended. Always. Nights wrapped in each other. Mornings with coffee and crosswords. The American dream, not picket fences, but porch swings creaking under shared weight. In the end, it wasn't happily ever after, but wholly raw, real, ours. And as snow fell that first anniversary, Joshua's arms around me, Lily's video call lighting the screen with her grin, I knew. Nothing went as planned, but everything led here. The rain hammered the windshield like it had a personal grudge, turning the Seattle streets into a blurry watercolor of neon signs and taillights. I slammed the car door behind me, my sneakers splashing into puddles that swallowed my ankles whole, heart pounding harder than the thunder rolling in from Puget Sound. Lily's house loomed ahead, that cozy craftsman with the wraparound porch where we'd spent half our childhoods plotting world domination over stolen sips of her dad's whiskey. Except tonight, the porch light was on, and through the sheets of rain, I saw him standing there, Joshua, silhouetted like a ghost from a noir film, waiting for me with a look that said he knew everything I was about to confess. I froze on the cracked concrete path, water dripping from my hoodie like accusations, because Lily wasn't the one I needed to talk to anymore. Not about this. "Ryan," he said, his voice cutting through the storm like gravel wrapped in velvet. Low and steady, The kind that made your knees buckle without warning. She's not here. But I am. Come inside before you drown. Kid. Joshua's kitchen smelled like fresh ground coffee and the faint, forbidden tang of his aftershave, the one that always lingered on Lily's sweaters after their family hugs. He handed me a towel without a word, his calloused fingers brushing mine just long enough to send a jolt up my arm. And I hated how my body betrayed me, how it had been doing that for months now. Ever since that stupid backyard barbecue where I'd caught him shirtless by the grill, sweat tracing the lines of his chest like an invitation I pretended not to see. Lily's at her mom's for the weekend, he explained, leaning against the counter with that easy posture, arms crossed over a faded Pearl Jam tee that hugged his frame like it remembered better days. Early flight. Said something about you needing to crash here if the storm got bad. Figured you'd show. I mumbled a thanks, scrubbing at my hair, avoiding his eyes, those deep hazel ones that crinkled at the corners when he laughed, the ones that made me feel seen in a way that scared the hell out of me. Lily and I had been inseparable since freshman year at UW, bonded over bad poetry slams and worse breakups. But lately, every conversation circled back to her dad. He's just solid. You know, I told her once, drunk on cheap rose, and she'd laughed, calling him Old Man Rivers like he was some ancient relic. But he wasn't. At 45, Joshua was a force, widower since Lily's mom died of cancer a decade ago, raising his daughter solo while flipping houses around Queen and Hill, his hands scarred from hammers and heartaches I could only guess at. We ended up on the living room couch, the one with the sagging cushions and throw pillows that still smelled faintly of her mom's lavender detergent. Thunder rattled the windows, and he poured us both scotch, neat, no ice, his ritual for storms. Talk to me, Ryan, he said, settling too close, his knee brushing mine. You've got that look, like you're carrying the weight of the world on those skinny shoulders. I took a swig, the burn steadying me, and the words tumbled out before I could stop them. It's stupid. This guy at the coffee shop, barista with tattoos and a smile that could melt steel. But it's not just him. Everything. Feeling like I'm always one wrong glance from blowing up my life. Gay in Seattle was supposed to be easy, progressive paradise, rainbow flags on every corner. But try telling that to the knot in my gut every time I scrolled Grindr at 2 a.m., deleting profiles before dawn like evidence of a crime.